Welcome to the Egyptian Theater and the American Cinematheque and the NOIR City Film Festival. I am your host, Eddie Muller. I have been doing this festival for 26 years. I think I'm an honorary denizen of Hollywood Boulevard at this point. As you know, we're in the stretch run here, only 2 days left in this year's festival, the theme of which is women. I have a book coming out early in April called Dark City Dames about women of the original film noir era who made their mark in this style of film. And that was the basis for programming this year's festival. But as a bonus treat, Grant Moninger, the programmer here, and I were discussing what bonus things we could do. And I said, well, if you like these newer films that we're showing, thank Jennifer Tilly, because I did a radio program earlier this year with Jennifer, and she was so much fun, and we had such a blast. I said, hey, look, if I showed Bound, would you come out and appear with the movie? And she agreed to do that. And then as soon as I said this to Grant, he said, well, let's show some other newer films and see what we can come up with. And that's why you've seen these fabulous female-centric neo-noirs like The Last Seduction and The Grifters, and today's film, Destroyer, which I am absolutely thrilled to present. I have the distinct pleasure of telling the makers of this film moments ago that I think they created a modern masterpiece with this movie. I absolutely love it because I'm a noir guy, and you can love a film that is so brutal and uncompromising and makes you feel absolutely miserable by the time it's over. But they earn that, and you earn it watching this movie. So I'm thrilled to present this film. I always do this. I'm going to ask, how many folks in the audience have not seen this movie before? Okay, very good. See, Karyn, we got you a fresh bunch of newbies for this one. And it's a delight to have the filmmakers themselves. Screenwriter Phil Hay and director Karyn Kusama are here to discuss the film after you see it. And I will just say that some of you who have not seen this movie before, probably about 20 minutes in, you're going to say, when does Nicole Kidman show up? Because this is a different Nicole Kidman that you are about to see in this movie. So that's it. I'm not going to say anything more about it. It's best to experience this film cold, like I say, a modern masterpiece. There might be some folks in the house tonight who are waiting to see their name come up on the screen, so I didn't want to cut this off entirely. But I hope you enjoyed that. This is the fourth time I've seen it. It kills me every time. It is such a brilliant movie. It is so incredibly devastating, and I cannot wait to talk about it. Ladies, with the makers, ladies and gentlemen, screenwriter Phil Hay and director Karyn Kusama. And for those of you who may not know this, Phil and Karyn are husband and wife.
That is true.
That's true.
Yes. Okay, I didn't know, I admitted to Karyn and Phil that I did not even know where to start talking about this film because there's so much stuff I love about it, but I will tell you this. I saw this when it premiered at the Telluride Film Festival in 2018, and it just completely blew me away, but when it got to the scene with Erin and her daughter talking in the booth in the restaurant, I said to myself, this is the most woman-centered film noir ever made. Because the emotion in that scene between Erin and her daughter, I'd never seen anything like that in a crime film before. So that's my starting point, just saying that, and asking you what the genesis of this was and how you approach the material. Did you, because you have a reputation for doing, subverting very masculine type films, like Girl Fight, it's a female boxing movie, right? And you do female horror, Jennifer's Body and stuff. But this felt like an intentional idea to give the male role, the traditional male role, to a woman.
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you all for being here. It was so amazing to watch it with all of you, so thank you. And Matt is sick, or he would be here, so regrets. There was some of the ideas that became the movie that were haunting us for many years about, the idea of hunting yourself, or the idea of, in a very film noir way, that you're your own worst enemy, and all the retribution and from the world is going to come from and to you, But what really made the movie make sense to us was when we realized that the character of Erin Bell, that this was a story about a woman, and then pretty quickly after that, because we always talk with Karyn from the moment of the genesis of the idea, so she was kind of talking along with us as we were kind of working on it, and we realized that, at least for me, that the center of the entire movie is that scene between Belle and Shelby, and that's what made it feel different to us, or that's what made it feel like we had to kind of, that changed the story for us in a way that really made it come alive, aiming to that moment where she could offer the only meager gift that she had to offer to someone.
And so this was written for you to direct, is that correct?
Yeah, at this point, Matt Manfredi and Phil and I were committed to the idea of trying to make work together in some way. We had made the invitation previous to that, this film, and at this point, I feel like Destroyer, you brought me in earlier and kind of let me hear the shape of the story a little earlier than usual, and that was really useful for me to keep the film alive as we were trying to make it, and as they were writing it, I could start thinking about themes and images and strategies that I wouldn't have necessarily been able to think about without that advance notice.
And how difficult was it when you're putting the screenplay together? This has such an intricate structure. My mic is cutting out. There we go. It has such an intricate structure, which is not entirely rare for film noir. There's a lot of films, even 50 years ago, that use that intertwining, backtracking structure. But I gotta say, you pulled off like this epic conclusion to this film, because like the Mobius strip structure, how the whole story winds back in on itself. And I've been watching these films a long time. You got to do something pretty good to surprise me at the end of a film, right?
I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
So how early on in all of this did you hit on this idea that she comes to the crime scene at the beginning, and then at the end she is the killer?
I think that was one of the fundamental ideas that we felt that was. And we were always aware when we were doing it that we really didn't want it to be a gimmick. So we always kind of kept a possibility alive in our minds that we might not do that we might just tell the story in a linear manner if we felt like it was cheating to do it the way we did. But every decision, then it became interesting. It became kind of thematically appropriate about the idea that the investigation of a crime actually mimics the steps of planning a crime. It's just in the opposite order for opposite purposes.
Right.
And so that felt kind of organic to us, but I think we really, within the movie, and I was really struck watching it today that this was true, and some of this happened on the page, some of it happened in the editing room. I realize how emotionally we are guided in the structure, that it's about what emotionally has to happen for us, and that kind of guided us through the different timelines, is to ask the question, because it was kind of late in the writing process that we moved the scene with Chris and Erin that is at the very end of this movie to where it is, because we realized that is the moment that everything switched and their lives changed.
Right. Which is really brilliant, because we were talking a little bit earlier, and to me this is a character study. This is a really intense character study, but there is a lot of plot and a lot of expository information that is conveyed very briskly. I can't, watching it this time, I could not believe how fast this picture moves. It may not, if you're seeing it for the first time, your brain works in a different way, right? So you may be adding a little time in your head while you're piecing it all together. But when you've seen it and you're watching, it's like, my God, there isn't an ounce of fat on this thing. It just moves. And I said, there's so much plot, but it really is all character-centric, and neither is more important than the other. but just, my God, the amount of information you are able to convey and the overlapping expository stuff, right? With the sound conveying one thing, the image conveying something else, and just keep it moving. But that decision to put that scene at the end, to me, is sort of what makes it unique, and perhaps, I don't want to generalize, perhaps unique to a woman director, that it doesn't end with the shootout, or it ends with that emotional moment where she realizes she is responsible for all of this.
Well, and it's sort of the moment of, I guess I would say, authentic original sin for the character, because she uses something real between them. She uses love against him and eventually against herself. And that is such a dangerous, tragic decision that she's made. And so it's kind of like her worst regret. You get to see the moment, the birth, the origin of her worst regret.
Yeah. Which, boy, that is so deep. It makes, to me, Erin Bell one of the great noir characters, I think, in movies.
Thank you.
Because it is everything that noir is actually about, right? You just said it, the original sin. And how do I atone, and is there any way to atone? And that image, can I ask this? This may sound weird. Was it fun to put this together?
It was fun.
I mean,
it was also really, really hard.
It was a hard
fun.
movie in that we were here in Los Angeles. We shot it in 33 days. We shot it for a little less than $10 million. It was a really hard movie. But there was a lot of joy, actually. Like, I feel a lot of joy when I'm working. And to work with actors, like all of these actors, who were a kind of amazing mix of character actors and movie stars and non-actors even, that made it so fun to have just so many energies on set. It was fantastic.
Well, and also, I just want to shout out, too, that we have, it's fun, the way we make movies. We've now accrued kind of a family of people that move along with us doing it, and at least one of them is here, and I just want to shout out Teddy Shapiro, who wrote the music, is here.
The score is absolutely fantastic. And congratulations on Severance. Very hot right now, writing the score for the biggest show on TV. So, good job. But this is amazing. You feel this score in the pit of your being. It's fantastic. Well, you said working with these actors. So, at what point did Nicole Kidman become involved in this production?
She actually had been sent the script by somebody who worked on her team, and we hadn't even really started the casting process. And she reached out to us and just was very generous to say, I want to put my hat in the ring, I want to fight for this role. And
all of you who are in the movie business know how incredibly rare that is. It does not happen very often.
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing moment for me, because I got to really consider the adventurousness of her body of work up to then, and then just think to myself, wow, this is one thing she has not done yet. And that's a really exciting thing with an actor, when you can see them go into kind of terrifying territory, which for her it was really scary. But she was so sensitive and smart, and once she was on set, it was sort of like she was Erin Bell. We weren't really dealing with Nicole Kidman at a certain point, and so
she said at once, she was like halfway through the shoot, she said, I look forward to you guys will meet me in like a month when this is over. And it was kind of true. I mean, she's actually was very, I don't think she would call herself a method actor or anything, but she was just very protective of the amount of energy it took her to become into that energy of Erin, and to come out of it and into it was really trying, so she would tend to stay into it, which was also trying in its own way. But she really was wonderful.
And how much of that was in her transforming of herself? Was there a lot of makeup involved?
Yeah, I mean, we had to do several months of building prosthetics, and that gave us time for her to sort of dive into the character, and time for us to figure out our production plan. But yeah, we had to, going from, say, 29 to 46, and then have the 29-year-old Erin Bell be, still relatively healthy and kind of bewitchingly beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then to see her be so ruined, it took some doing, and we had an amazing makeup designer, Bill Corso, who helped us chart that decline. And it was very much, the movie is very much about the kind of ravages of time. And so it was important for us to sort of really take in what can happen to a face, a body, a life over time.
And through the sun, which is such a big part of the Los Angeles-ness of this movie. And the thing that's maybe a flip side of noir is like the sunlit noir is, but I think what Karyn said about it was really important thematically, that the damage, that there was damage coming from outside, but it was a sort of, in the end, what kills her is the literal and figurative damage that's inside of her.
Right. Right. And I didn't realize it the first couple of times I watched the movie, because you're so engrossed in the characters, that this really is a great LA movie. I mean, you make beautiful use of the whole area, and it has an LA feel about it that is very specific to
yeah, we really we obviously love LA, and we have lived here for a long time, and we really endeavor to make LA movies. And this, someone, I forget who it was, I was reading something, the writer was talking about this movie and said, if you live in Los Angeles or certain parts of Los Angeles, and you watch Destroyer, you enjoy being like, yeah, you would take that route to get there. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. No, yeah, you got to get to the 105. It's, getting off at Aviation, It's but we do really, and it was really a huge part of the meaning of this movie is about Los Angeles and about what it means.
How exciting is it as a director and as a writer to see somebody like Nicole Kidman give everything they've got? I mean, just when some of these takes are just so incredible. Not necessarily her line deliveries, her reactions. I mean, that scene with Erin and Shelby, when Shelby says, "I felt safe," and she winces and does that. I mean, your heart breaks. Your heart just breaks. And when you're watching this on set, is it like, how do you maintain your composure when you're seeing this become reality?
Yeah, I have to say there were moments where I think the cast and the crew, we were given an opportunity to feel kind of spooked by how present Nicole was in that character. And it was haunting. I mean, it was hard. I mean, there were days that it was actually hard for her and hard for me, but in a really generative way, because we were trying to depict total life. And that's a really hard thing to do. But I felt like she really committed to that idea.
Yeah, and there were moments, like the moment where after she crashes the van and she stashes her money in the dumpster and then she just breaks down, it was truly very moving to be there and see that, because we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. It wasn't like we wrote exactly, or Karyn had said, we're blocking this. It was like, you're in yourself, and this is what's just happened. And she just started doing that, and our wonderful DP, Julie Kirkwood, was just handheld camera, and it was like the two of them out in the middle of the parking lot by themselves, and all of us like hiding behind dumpsters and up on top of a roof, because you can see everything when someone's like with the handheld, so everyone's like on the ground. But it was truly moving to watch. You have you know, we've made a lot of movies, and most of the people who worked on this movie, it's what they do all day, every day. And it was really special and very different, the feeling after she did those takes of that particular scene.
And did she kind of scream herself out sometimes? Because her voice
I was
is
very
so
scared
raw.
of that, more as a producer than as a screenwriter, but I was very scared of the
You know, she actually made this choice to have the older Erin Bell have essentially speak in a lower register, and then have the younger Erin speak a little more closely to the, you know, sort of the timbre of Nicole's actual voice. But she went down into some like guttural, growly place, just, you know, generally. And I think she had to do a lot of preparation each day before she came to set.
And Karyn, as a director, you know, I'm used to showing films by guys like Don Siegel and Phil Carlson and, you know, all these guys.
Don Siegel is one of Karyn's favorites, by the way.
Okay, fantastic. He was pretty good at the quieter moments, but you are so good. I mean, you are a great action director, but the quiet moments are also so incredibly special. But do you get a charge out of directing like that? The bank robbery is phenomenal. It's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I think there's definitely still a lot of room for me to be delighted that I get to work with kind of the literal and figurative firepower of the art form. You know, Pauline Kael's first book of criticism, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, was named Kiss Kiss Bang Bang for a reason. That's a big part of why we go to movies. Right. And I think nothing more than cinema offers us an opportunity to feel the course of a life, to feel the possibility of change or the tragic lack of possibility of change. And that kind of breadth in an art form, you know, the small moments are as exciting to me as blowing stuff up, you know. So I'm really happy that this movie can work on both levels for those that it does, because that was always the goal.
Because I have to say, there are great moments in here. I'm wondering, like, what was your take on just before they barge in to the bank? There's that wonderful moment where he says, "Aren't you going to call for backup?" And she says, "This is a fucking gunfight."
I gotta hand it to Phil, because when we first blocked that scene, it was kind of like something we were aware that some transitional lurch into her headspace was missing. And I remember you saying, we need this one thing that just pulls us back to Belle. And it was this like, you know, sort of a moment in music, a shot that just sort of pulled us toward her again.
It's the shot that was up here when we were sitting down of her with the gun.
Right
before
she fires the first shot when she goes in. So,
but we did.
Hats off.
Well, thank you. With all the kind of, it's interesting you brought that up, because I think that also was, she's, in a way, like we're kind of touching on different mythologies, and she, in fact, has been like, we talked to sometimes, like she's been poisoned by the outlaw romance. She's been poisoned by the mythos of like outlaw lovers, and she's also a cowboy, and that's kind of like, that's her as a cowboy, you know.
I was going to say, that's the Peckinpah moment.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, suddenly it's
and
like she's Pike
cops.
Bishop and the Wild Bunch. It's like, this is it, let's go, you know.
And it was also important to us, like, to try to, you know, those two cops are just regular cops. They did not show up to be engaging in a gunfight with people, and frankly, it's, you know, she's breaking every possible protocol by doing that. And we tried to, it's really important, that stuff is really important to us in terms of the reality of the situation. And, you know, we said it was clear that things were getting out of control in the bank, so she had an excuse to go in. But really, you don't know her motive until much later, that she doesn't want to arrest these people. She's trying to kill Silas. Like, this is her chance to do that. And failing that, she's got to hold on to Petra and somehow get away with her, because if the authorities show up and question her, her whole thing is over. So, you know, hopefully her cowboyness carries you through that until you understand why she was being so incredibly rash in that moment.
Yeah. And the casting in the film is impeccable. It's just great. Top to bottom, everybody is great. Bradley Whitford is fantastic in this movie. He plays, what was it? DeFranco, yeah. Elbow! Yeah, everybody is terrific. And can you believe that Sebastian Stan played Donald Trump in The Apprentice? And he's great, by the way. I'm sure you've seen the movie.
Yeah, no, he's
great. Yeah, but just talk a little bit about the casting and your process for choosing these people. Is it a very instinctive thing, or do they audition for you? How does it work?
A couple people auditioned just because I maybe hadn't met them before, known much of their work, and some of them didn't have as big of a body of work for me to see, so I would work with them to kind of get a sense. But like, I'm always looking at faces and sort of how engaged am I by the face, and how much will I, as the filmmaker, want to keep returning to what that face reveals. And so the casting was always also dictated by the script, in that it was pretty specific, you know, that each character sort of have a series of qualities. So I don't think we really...
A lot of them came from, you know, as Karyn said, there was many were auditions, but like, you know, Tatiana Maslany, for example, is someone that we really were excited to work with, and just knew that
Petra.
she would be, who played Petra, that we knew she would be amazing in that part. And also something I'd mention about that is how wonderful it is to have actors that you start working with over and over again. And for us, one of those is Toby Huss, who plays Gil, the FBI agent, who Karyn first met working on *Halt and Catch Fire*. And he was in The Invitation as well. And there's something about when you're working on a smaller movie with a massive movie star like Nicole, and who is, you know, has earned such respect, that it was really important that the first day of shooting was the day that she was, the scene where she's talking to Gil in the cafeteria. And to have an actor that we knew was just an A-plus actor to meet her on that first day and be the first face that she saw. And it was kind of great. Like, we did like 2 takes, and then Nicole came back over to where we were, and was like, he's good. And then we were like, I think this is going to work out. This is going to, you know.
Were you, I guess you weren't surprised, but she is so strong, you know, with all the physical stuff, the in the bank and the fight scene is just, and the scene in, you know, DeFranco's house, where, oh my God, it's the commitment here was off the charts.
Yeah, she has a pretty uncanny ability, I think, to sort of embody every character she plays. But in this case, the way we talked about the character was that fury was so much of her sort of animating engine, and it would push her past just the sheer adrenaline of her fury would keep her alive until the end, till she reached the end, kind of her literal life. And it was really interesting to see how much ferocity she could bring to her physicality. I was pleasantly surprised.
And I love the structure of it, that when the movie starts, I realized the second time I saw the film that you're actually putting us in her head from the very beginning of the movie, because you're actually seeing her closed eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it's her eye, inside of her eyelids is the first thing you see in the movie. And then she opens her eyes, and then you see that great shot of her. And then it comes full circle. It must have been exciting to direct and cut, write, direct, and cut, and score. Like, the last 15 minutes of this movie are so intense, and you're just waiting for, because you're not going to get the predictable ending. There's one more thing, you know. And were you concerned about that, like bringing it in for the landing? Like, it's a very complicated emotional finish, as you well know.
Yeah, I mean, I let the audience be the judge of whether or not it succeeds. For me, it was so important to find that emotional, psychological space that you're talking about that gets set up from the beginning, which is meant to be sort of behind her eyes, literally. And so it's all about like how much, in this movie especially, it was so much about how do we stay connected emotionally to the character while offering the crucial information that allows the story to come full circle. And it was a hard balance, I think.
Yeah, I think we knew, I mean, from the writing of it, that it was needed to, and that's an interesting thing about working really early with Karyn and bringing music in early, like having Teddy writing some of that music from before we even started shooting, that we started to understand the feeling of it, and that it was kind of taking a swing to have this sort of like almost operatic ending to the movie, but it felt, you know, for us it felt appropriate. And when we committed to it, we were like, yeah, we need to go all the way. It has to really go there, and it has to be this sort of moment of apotheosis or something, right, or transcendence of the, and again, trying to bring back the skateboarder, for example, which has, you know, obviously a metaphorical meaning, but almost trying to balance, it's like the mundane stuff is what's meaningful to her. It's just that last environment she's in. There's a dog, there's a, which she identifies with, I'm sure. There's a bunch of birds, there's some skaters who just can't get it right, you know.
These are the last things I'm going to see.
Yeah.
I mean, she is aware of that, you know. Weird question, but do you think it would have been possible for this to turn out as well if you weren't married? I just mean,
Definitely
you write a screenplay that intricate,
Yeah.
and then hand it over to some director that you don't really know and don't understand their approach to the material.
Yeah, no, it's very different. And I mean, I will say this, like, it is impossible to imagine it because the whole story and the whole
process, we were so entwined.
We were so entwined, and also it really is us projecting and learning something, trying to see it through Karyn's eyes, which is part of how we, you know, how this movie could happen, is because we were both, you know, telling our story and bringing what we had to it, but also we really were truly trying to think of, okay, can we absorb what Karyn's going to see here, and can we be kind of illuminated by that, and that, so it's impossible to imagine someone else for us making the movie.
And so how difficult was it to justify going back to get that shot of her walking in the snow? It ends the film with her daughter. Like
I mean,
it's the only thing like that in the whole film. So I know
Yeah.
you didn't pick that up,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of a day somewhere.
Yeah, no. It wasn't hard for me because it was like an emotional linchpin of the film. And when I read that passage on the page, I felt this sense of just my heart bursting, because we were sort of witnessing this unfiltered moment of her recklessness, her strength, her folly, her love for this girl that she will fail in many ways. And so to me,
That was always non-negotiable.
yeah, it always felt like we just had to have it.
And
so.
also, Nicole, it was really gratifying when we first were talking to her about the script that she said she was like, that's the moment when I knew what the movie was and that I had to do the movie. And I think it's because later, when we were up there, it was just up in the, what's it called, the Grove or something? I mean, not the Grove shopping mall.
Tree
But
Grove.
it'd be amazing if they had that in the Grove. Yeah.
I took her shopping.
There's a
How
spot
did-
where you can go in LA and yeah, and you can bring fake snow in, which is what we did, but we were standing off to the side watching this surreal thing of all these trucks just blowing snow on a hot day, you know, and
Hollyweird.
and Nicole, we were talking about it, and we both used the same weird phrase to describe it. We both were talking about it and saying that that scene is the ancient part of the movie, and like we talked about that like when she's looking for a character and when we're looking for a story, it's really important to understand what the ancient part of it is, and like that to me, that's just like a cave drawing, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish at some point.
Well, you succeeded. I mean, that's exactly how it plays. And I mean, I was thinking about that. I know it was essential for you guys, but like, that's exactly the kind of thing that a stupid producer would take out of the film, right? And say, do we really have to go and shoot that? That's going to cost money, and it's not really. And it's like, no, that is kind of, you want to cut the soul of the movie out? Seriously? You know, yeah. So just absolutely remarkable. So are there any other memories you have from shooting this film that were particularly strong for you?
I mean, so many. So, I mean, that it was a really wonderful and tight-knit experience and a very memorable one. But I want to take a second, because I know we don't have much time, to just say how interesting and fun it is for us to watch this movie in the context of Noir City and in the context of noir, because sitting here watching it now, I was sort of absorbing how much noir we've absorbed, more unconsciously than consciously, in this movie, and kind of watching, to me, the most noir thing for me in the movie that hit me when watching it was when they're sitting around the campfire and Silas says, basically, I've got good news and bad news, nobody's watching. You know, which to me, that absence of a moral universe over you is, anyway, so thank you for putting us here, and thank you for like letting us think about it in those terms. It's been
Well,
really cool.
it is a pleasure, and I have always said when I started writing about film noir, and this is apropos of the theme of this year's festival, I said, you know, it's always been a genre where women had equality in noir more than other genres, because they were equally tempted, equally compromised, and equally guilty. Noir
Yes.
allowed women that, you know, and that
And
is
equally crushed by an unforgiving and merciless world. And I think that that's essentially what we are depicting in this film, and that is part of the tradition of noir, for sure.
absolutely. Well, the perfect way to bring this in for a landing, Karyn, because you have now contributed an essential film in the history of noir, I think. I mean, I just think this is an absolute masterpiece.
Thank you so much.
I
Really
hope you
appreciate it.
agree, and
Thank you, guys.
give it
Thank
up.
you.
Phil
Thank you so
Hay,
much.
Karyn
Thank you so much,
Kusama,
everybody. Thank you.
Destroyer.